Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the dynamic, often exhilarating world of cryptocurrency markets. Specifically, we're going to unpack the recent movements and, crucial junctures for SUI. We'll be dissecting the technical details and market indicators, basically trying to reveal its current state and maybe its future possibilities.
Right. And our mission for you today is really to cut through all that market noise. We want to equip you with an understanding of what signals to actually watch for and, maybe more importantly, why certain price points are so significant. This deep dive isn't just about, raw numbers. It's about decoding SUI's moment of truth, that point where market sentiment will either validate or invalidate a sustained recovery. It could potentially set its course for months to come. It's really about understanding the implications of these levels, not just memorizing them.
Okay, all right, let's unpack the story then. So we're looking at the SUI chart, and it's currently holding above what analysts are calling critical support levels. Specifically, it's hovering right around the 38.2 Fibonacci retracement. That sits at $3.50.
And that's not a new lever for SUI, is it?
No, exactly. It's been tested repeatedly. And we've actually just entered what's called the Fibonacci support zone that stretches between $3.50 and $3.11. This is a zone that's been on the radar since the market locally topped around July 18th.
What's fascinating here, though, is that while the parameters are familiar, you can feel the market is clearly under significant pressure. For the bulls, this really is a decisive turning point. They absolutely need to find sustained support right here. They need to engineer a turnaround. Because if they don't, a larger correction is, well, it's already unfolding. We've been tracking the same scenario for weeks, but the stakes feel undeniably higher now.
So this isn't just a minor fluctuation then. It sounds like a really pivotal chapter in SUI's journey. You mentioned tracking a corrective pullback, initially labeling it as an ABC structure, but now it seems to have sort of morphed into something more complex, a WXY structure. What's the practical difference there for how we interpret SUI's path forward? What does this plot twist, if you like, imply for how low SUI might potentially go?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really does change the narrative. This shift from a simpler ABC correction, which is, essentially a straightforward, typically quicker three-wave pullback, to more intricate WXY structure, means the market's corrective movement is proving more complex,
Yeah.
more drawn out than initially anticipated.
Or complex, okay.
Right. It suggests a more prolonged period of maybe indecision or downward pressure rather than a swift bounce back. And within that WXY, the Y wave itself is an ABC structure, which implies we could potentially go a little lower, maybe even dip to the 50% retracement level. But look, the ideal scenario for the bulls is for SUI to hold above $3.11. That's key. If we break below that level, well, a larger pullback becomes significantly more likely. And honestly, there isn't much immediate bullish support left to lean on below that.
Right. And you've sort of alluded to how the chart itself seems almost prepared for this kind of test. It looks like a flat correction, you said, because the previous rally was in three waves. And now we're precisely at that 38.2 retracement, the $3.50 mark, which is typically an ideal target for a fourth wave. This also mirrors a potential scenario playing out for Bitcoin, doesn't it?
It does.
But even if the stage is set, what actual catalyst do the bulls need to provide? What do they need to do to truly turn this around and drive the price higher?
Okay, for a clear sign that a low is actually in and a new uptrend is beginning, we need to see a sustained break above the B wave high. That was yesterday's swing high, sitting at $3.96. That's the next objective. That's the clear signal the bulls need to deliver, pushing the price firmly above that level.
396, okay.
Yeah. Without that kind of decisive move, there's simply no indication that a low has been established yet. The reaction we saw from the Wednesday low was clearly just a three-wave move up. And that just isn't enough to inspire the kind of confidence needed for a true reversal.
And it wasn't just SUI struggling to find that conviction, was it? Even altcoins generally weren't particularly impressed by Bitcoin's attempt at a reversal on Wednesday. So while SUI has dipped into its support zone and is currently trying to find its footing, you're not fully convinced yet, not without some significant upside momentum from Bitcoin, right?
That's absolutely correct. All eyes really remain on Bitcoin. Look, the micro support levels for SUI are $3.30 and $3.11. We know that. But frankly, we can talk about these levels all we want. Without Bitcoin finding robust support, SUI will struggle in this current environment. If Bitcoin breaks its own support levels, it's highly probable that SUI will just follow suit. And this isn't just a crypto-specific phenomenon, Think about how the health of major indices like the S&P 500 can dictate sentiment across entire stock sectors. In crypto, Bitcoin acts as that market barometer. It sets the tone for risk appetite across altcoins. Doesn't really matter about their individual project fundamentals or even if they have strong charts on their own sometimes.
Interesting comparison.
Right. And Bitcoin's direction could open the door to alternative interpretations for SUI, too, like potentially testing the June lows again. That's a scenario also being considered for other assets like Solana, for example.
So even with all these specific technical patterns and critical junctures for SUI, the ultimate determining factor still seems to be Bitcoin. This interconnectedness is truly something to grasp, isn't it? If SUI breaks below that $3.11 support level and stays there on a sustained basis, then the trend isn't just up in a simple diagonal pattern anymore. Is that right? It means the focus shifts entirely to those June lows. What's the consequence beyond just hitting another support level? I mean, is there a point where these patterns just become irrelevant if the broader market sentiment collapses?
Precisely. Yeah, for now, the trend is still technically up. It's in a potential diagonal pattern supported by that crucial $3.11 level. But a sustained break below $3.11 fundamentally alters the outlook. It really does. It changes what we call the wave degree or maybe even the trend itself.
Yeah.
It shifts our focus from looking at potentially higher prices to looking for significantly lower prices. It's basically an extension of the current correction, but it brings us to a new, more challenging phase within the parameters we've been tracking. It's just that the market's underlying bearish pressure has significantly intensified, making a quick recovery far less probable.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, the learner, listening in? We've explored SUI's critical support levels. We've identified the specific technical patterns analysts are watching, like that shift from an ABC to a more complex WXY structure. And we've highlighted the undeniable sort of overarching influence of Bitcoin on its trajectory. That $3.11 mark really is a crucial pivot point to observe. It's like a line in the sand for SUI's immediate future.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how multiple indicators seem to converge to tell this complex story, and how the health of one asset, like SUI, is just intrinsically linked to market leaders such as Bitcoin. For you, the key takeaway isn't just memorizing price points like $3.50, $3.11, and $3.96. It's understanding the power of these specific thresholds and recognizing how a sustained break below $3.11 could signal a really significant change from maybe an upward trend to a potential test of those deeper June lows.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. A thought for you to perhaps mull over. If even highly specific technical analyses of an asset like SUI must constantly, defer to the momentum of a market leader like Bitcoin, what broader lesson might this teach you about the interconnectedness of systems, whether that's in finance, technology, or even just your own daily life? How might identifying these dependencies, these sort of market barometers in other areas, help you predict or perhaps navigate future shifts with greater insight?